Hello and welcome to this day's video. It is a special video actually this week. I decided to take a delve into one of my many hobbies and try to make a doll custom. It's going to be based on Allison Hargreeves of Umbrella Academy. It will be a combination between both the comic and the TV show one that came out in February of this year. Now the doll that we're going to be using in today's custom is from the Disney Descendants line. Don't exactly know her name, but all I know is that she has about 10 points of articulation. She comes with a whole bunch of accessories and she's very cute, but for some reason it's just unable to stand on her own, which I thought was very annoying when I was trying to prop her up for a picture. But either way, let's get on down to cutting off all her hair and wiping off all her factory paint. So after having her face prepped and everything, what I did was I took the doll, I measured how long I want the strands of the hair to be, I doubled it over, and then I started cutting a whole bunch of them of the same length. And I say a bunch, I mean a whole bunch, like a whole lot, like a whole hootenanny amount of them, like too many to even count, like so many of them. So then after that, I took each one of them apart and then started just punching them all into her little scalp with a needle. And I started at the part of the hair and then I continued on to around her hairline. And boy, do I mean it when I tell you it took a very long time. Very long. But the results were amazing. Her hair was absolutely gorgeous. It looked full and luscious. So after that, I covered it all up because I was tired of looking at it, and I covered her face with Mr. Super Clear, a sealant made to help protect the vinyl that we're going to be working on, aka her face. So what I did at the beginning of this clip was take the pants that came with the doll, turn it inside out, and start tearing it apart or ripping it at the seams, so that we could use the pattern of the pants to make new pants. When doing this, please take into account the seam allowance and also whether or not there is any elastic being used in it. As a sort of way to remember the process, or rather like the directions of the pants, I decided to trace over the shape of it onto some scrap piece of paper and write the sort of directions, who the pants fit, and also how many of the pieces I should cut. This is for also future use and to maybe even test out and see if it fits other dolls. And here you have me laying out the pants, or one of the pant legs, onto the material that I'm going to be using. This material is just some old yoga pants that I don't use anymore, so I thought it'd be better to use it as scrap material. When using this, make sure to flip it over for the other side of the pant leg. When I did this initially, what I did was I laid it on 2 layers, I cut that layer, and then I had a pant leg for both right legs, but no lefts. And you know, dolls need a left leg. So upon having both pant legs ready for the doll, I sewed up both sides of them, not worrying about sewing up the middle so far. And I used my sewing machine with a lot of pins. You don't really need a sewing machine for this part. You can do this with hand sewing. It's just that with a machine it's a little bit more faster. Even though you can't really use the pedal as much, you just have to use like the hand crank to get the needle through. But in my experience, it was a little bit easier getting it through and getting it done quick. So right around here, I had to sew in the middle part of the pants, the good old crotch-ola, if you will. And what I did was I just put both of the pieces together, they had to be inside out to hide the seaming or the sewing, and I just went right on at it, just went up along the crotch all the way up to the ass, and I used some white or yellow thread so I can see it up against the black, but it kind of worked against me because after that I was still able to see the seams, of course, obviously, light thread on dark fabric after all. So then I thought real quick and I thought, oh well, I'll just make a little leotard to cover that right on up, and it worked pretty good. Now you think this next part right here is a little bit hard because you don't really have anything to trace upon in terms of like clothes, but you do have the body to trace with. So since we were just doing a very simple leotard, I traced her shoulder, I traced her side, and I also traced her crotch, removed her, and then kind of just connected the lines, connected those dang lines in the shape of that I needed them to do. I cut the piece out, and then I folded it over, and then there we go. We have a leotard pattern right there. Keeping in mind that when I was cutting out the pieces, I also did add a little bit, just a little bit, to add like a sort of seam allowance sort of deal. When you're sewing any sort of material together, it's always good to have some sort of extra space to work on. That's what the seam allowance is on there. It also allows for a very good, nice fitted look too. Now this fabric you see me using for the leotard is actually fabric from a cosplay I was using to make another leotard for a Foot Clan recruit from the recent Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm super not sure if I'm still gonna do it, but I have it there, and I don't know, just one day. Because the material I used for the leotard was not as thick as the material I used for the pants, I did decide to just hand sew the piece together, and I think it turned out pretty good. I went ahead and did a nice little like test drive with the doll too to see if there's any like parts of it that I had to go through and resew, and after that, when I was satisfied with the results, I went ahead and traced the pattern of the leotard, and I also wrote down the instructions for later use. Now you did see me add some Velcro towards the crotch of the leotard suit. It had a sticky back, but the sticky back was not necessarily very strong, so I did have to reinforce the Velcro with stronger glue, and I did sew it on there too eventually. Now, with everything that I know on how to make patterns for dolls, which is obviously not a lot to be completely honest with all of you folks out there, I just decided that since in both iterations of her she does have a very cool iconic jacket, I went ahead, traced her body onto paper again, and then just sort of started trying to figure out the shape of her jacket and also like the material that I would use. I ended up just using the material that I used again for her legs because I thought just to have some sort of unified look going on there. And it did take me a while to figure out the shape that I wanted, but I decided eventually that it would be something that would kind of just like end at her waist and have very kind of belly or really open sort of sleeves. For the construction of the jacket, I sewed together the shoulders, and then after that I sewed together the sleeves, which were, I thought they were going to be very difficult to attach, but they were not. They were at the perfect size, and that never happens to me when I'm making my own stuff for my own damn body. So after sewing together the sleeves on there, I sewed it up the sides, down the sleeves as well, and it felt unfinished still, so I added some sort of like sort of ribbing along the front of the jacket, all around the neck as well. It's kind of hard to explain, but I think it turned out pretty good. It sort of gave this cool like almost sports jackety effect, and I thought, dang, that's pretty cool. That's a pretty nice shape there. Very good, very nice texture there, Bella. You did very good there. Very proud of you. Now I'm gonna let you guys in a little bit of a secret. When I was cutting those pant legs, yes, we're talking about the pant legs again, I cut them at the end of where the yoga pants actually ended, so I didn't really have to worry about the hemming. So in this case, I did worry about the hemming. So what I did was, when I cut it out, I just glued the end of it together, because any sort of sewing to like finish the hemming will become a little bit more apparent because of the small doll sizes of it all. So I just went ahead and glued it, and honestly, I felt because of that, it kept a shape that was very cool. So I was very satisfied with that. Now here's the pieces all together to make sure they work in harmony. I also plan on adding on a little belt, so that's why the little extra piece is there as well. Now using this patch as a reference, I went ahead and painted her symbol onto the leotard with some very simple white acrylic paint. I did use some cardboard in between the layers of the fabric so they don't stick together. Then with the same method as before, I went ahead and painted two little umbrellas on both sides of her jacket sleeves. Because the material was black, it naturally absorbed quite a bit of the white paint, so I did have to go in and do a couple different layers. And here are the final results I did for the painting. I did do one line down her leg on both sides of them, but I did this off camera. Now using boots from a different doll from the same line, I went ahead and cut these little weird things off the heels, and then I painted the gold chains on the boots into silver. I thought it fit the color scheme just a little bit better. And then I did the same with this little belt loop thingy. I went ahead and painted all the studs, also silver. I did try painting a glove onto the doll hands, but one of them just didn't want to take any of the black paint, so just one of them has a glove on them. I went ahead and painted her nails off camera as well. And with all that out of the way, we're finally able to get to the face up, which, believe it or not, was actually the most difficult part of the whole entire custom. I don't know what it was about it, I just couldn't get any sort of like build up on the colors for her vinyl, and I could just say that maybe it's because I just sprayed her wrong, and I'm pretty sure that's what it was. But it took me such a long time to even like try to get the penciling on there for her eyelash or anything actually. I eventually had such a difficult time with the color pastels that I was using that I eventually just went ahead and went to the acrylic paint, which just immensely helped out the whole experience a whole lot more better. In terms of, say, expression for the doll, I wanted to go with something a bit mischievous and a little bit mysterious, because to be completely honest, I feel like she is a very mischievous character with the way her powers are presented and also with the way she uses it. And I also just like thought, well, she's probably a very self-confident person too, so it would make sense that maybe she's able to like be a bit like, ooh, look at me, I'm confident and I'm mischievous. I don't know, but I think what I ended up doing was actually something very like sincere and very calm looking, which I guess fits a little bit more with the character in the show, because she seems a lot more supportive as in comparison to her comic book counterpart, which is very like, I guess I would say self-absorbed to a degree, but maybe she's just not really self-aware of how she comes off to other people. And just look at that struggle, I swear. Once I bust out those acrylics, it's over for everyone. Now, I ultimately did end up giving her just blue eyes, mainly because I still in a way wanted to reference her hair color. I know it's a weird excuse to like use to paint a different eye shade and color, because I'm pretty sure even in the comics her eyes are like a hazel color, but I don't know, something about blue eyes also just seems very alluring and also like mysterious too. I ultimately ended up finishing off her makeup and her eyes off camera, mainly because when I want to get in there for the small nitty-gritty details, I get in there and I get in the way. So to finish it off, I went ahead and just applied some clear varnish gloss, and her face is pretty much done after that. And now with all that done and out of the way, I went ahead and started styling her hair. I just unleashed it. And after being cooped up in that little head thingy for such a long time, it did sort of retain like a weird sort of shape going on there. So I just went ahead, fluffed it out a little bit, and then I just started like figuring out what was the hairstyle that I wanted to go for. I just wanted to go for something very simple with her hair down and like maybe the sides kind of done up a little bit, and maybe her bangs out a little bit too. So I did try to like emulate a style that Allison wore during the show as well. So finally, after I was done styling her hair, I went ahead and popped it right on back to the body, and we were done. We were completely and honestly done. I was done, my cat was done, this doll was done. And I gotta say, I am very completely and totally proud of how she came out. I am blown away at how much patience I had during the whole thing. Like, I honestly, at many points during it, wanted to just drop it and move on to the next thing. But perseverance and wit and whatever else have you helped me continue on to finishing the doll. And I am very proud. I'm feeling that serotonin, guys, let me tell you, and it's feeling pretty good. So there we go. I do plan on in the future to make one of Vanya. I just haven't really figured out like a sort of design combining both the show and the comic book one, but it will be coming out. I don't know when. Hopefully it probably will actually take as long as this one, but when she comes out, we're gonna have a photo shoot and we're gonna be happy and we're just gonna be feeling that nice sweet serotonin, I'll tell you what. So thank you all for joining me on this amazing journey through this video, whatever it was, honestly. And if you're interested in maybe helping me purchase some art supplies that I need for the videos that I make, I do have a Patreon. I do have a coffee thing in the links of my description, or the descriptions of my links, or wherever you want to reference or say that. But thank you all for joining me, and have a good week, have a good weekend whenever you're watching this.